All right, so now we will talk about starting transactions, and then we'll finish this series of videos up with a few extra things that will help you kind of get your things set up for your own account. And yeah, we'll dive in. So if we hit add property here, we can access the different ways to add new properties. We can add them here as well, but here we can add new contacts, and we can add new contacts by going here as well. So I'm going to just start from here. We are right now adding new properties since the agent intake form isn't built out just yet. You can import from .loop, you can import from 𝗀𝘂𝗍 or 𝗺𝗀𝘀𝘀, and I will show you in the next video kind of how to set these up. But I'll go ahead and start a new property, which is how you will be starting your new transactions. I'm just going to do a random address and going to do transaction team, and then let's get it started. All right, so the first thing you'll always want to do, whether you submit a new transaction via the new property or even the agent intake form through .loop, through 𝗀𝘂𝗍, you will want to make sure that these default settings are all set up. So this here, it'll calculate these days for your property dates and your task dates. I usually just go ahead and do calendar days. I do the count federal holidays, the weekend rolled backwards, just because I'd rather have it before than after it's due, if there is a specific setting. So this is a lot more. So like the task dates, you remember I showed you that you can have it be, count calendar days. You can have it be to count federal holidays or roll backwards, roll forwards. I think this here is more so for things that aren't really there is no real definition. And then property dates themselves, I think this is just a default. If there isn't something in the background, this will do it this way for it. So you will want to, first things first, go here to manage numbers. The first transaction you put in, you'll just go ahead and do your area code, do a search, and just assign a Twilio number to your account. So you can just search here if you want to refresh it. You can hit search again, I believe, and it'll refresh them. And that way you can assign a specific number. Even if you don't use it, it will be auto selected, so you don't have to select it or do anything with it over and over again after creating or submitting multiple transactions. So a little bit about this Twilio number. It is actually a number that you can send text messages from within the system. When they respond to this text number, it'll come back to your account here. You'll have a little notification in the notification bell on your default, or I'm sorry, your dashboard or your transactions. It'll show up there. It'll also email you a copy of that text message. And if anyone ever calls this Twilio number, it's going to go directly to whatever phone number you have set up under that specific account. That's just so you know, that's exactly how it works. So I'm going to go ahead and skip this step because I'd like to give you the opportunity to do your own phone number, choose your own phone number. So next is the default email address. Make sure that is assigned to whatever address you'd like it to go to be sending from when it comes to this. You might have aliases that aren't a default, so you can pick and choose what email address this transaction sends from every single time. The default email signature, if you have your a specific one for each agent, you can assign the one for your agent here. The default tab, this is every time you come into the transaction, do you want it to open up to the transactions tab or the listing management tab or the teams tab or agents tab? So there's that, and then the communications tab. That's these tabs right here. Do you want to open it up to your tasks, to your emails, to your documents, to your contacts, or to your notes? I usually do tasks, and of course, transactions is going to be transactions. And then I'll show you in the next video how to make this default user sorted. But I did want to give you the kind of this here makes it so your documents tab shows up those documents from A to Z in alphabetical order, or you can have it in a specific order instead. Now, when we come into our first transaction, the way that you're probably going to be the easiest way to start putting in information is to do exactly what I did in the very beginning, where I just, and I'll actually run that through one more time. When I created the property, I just did the address, I picked the team, picked the team user, and then I hit next. And you could easily you can, of course, enter in information as in this page, just because it's so, it's not really in a nice order. I prefer to just create the transaction and start inputting that information within the transaction itself. So that's just a way that I think is easiest. So you'll start from the top, single family, click there, and you can add it. You can change the color by doing that, or you can change the color by right-clicking and selecting that color that you'd like. I think I might have not saved that one, but you will start by updating your colors. You don't have to do that first. I personally do that after I do the intros. So you can just start putting in information here. So I did the contract date. When I click here, you'll notice I get predictions for what it thinks I want to write. The way that you bypass this is by hitting your escape button. And usually when I'm doing intake manually like this, I just have my finger on the escape button and then the other hand on the mouse to go ahead and add my dates. So I will go ahead and start clicking. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is the purchase amount. Seller concession is 1, 2, 3, 4. Enter. Closing date. Escape. Let's just say the 31st. Possession date, I'm just going to leave that blank. There is no possession. Intros. At first, I need to send the intros. So I can do need. And just so that you know kind of what's going on here, this will allow you to do multiple selections. The reason being, if you go ahead and send the one to, your agent's client, the co-op, and the title company, and you don't have the lender's information, you can just do lender and mark it red. That way you know that you still need to send the lenders. The invites, if this is something that you're going to do, you need to send them. You are done sending them to the agent or the client, or it's not applicable. And you just go on with that information. If you have trouble seeing or understanding what a field might be because it's too long, you just click this here and it'll expand it. And then clicking that again will contract it or collapse it. And you can do this button here to collapse this entire section. So you notice I actually did click this, but it didn't go. So if you ever have issues where you're clicking and it doesn't collapse, just close out of the transaction and go back into it. And I'm actually going to clear this. And this is the same one. So when I come back in, it'll be collapsed. Same for expanding it. I clicked that, it didn't go, let me come back in, and it's opened. So you can go through and put in all of your contract information. And then once you're done here, just to show you a few of those shortcuts, you can come here, and if you feel like you're missing anything, or if you want to remove any of the sections because they don't apply, you'll want to hit Manage Fields here. So if you go down and you say, there isn't a septic or there isn't radon and there isn't fireplace, there isn't a home warranty, you can update that. And now those three sections are going to be removed completely from your view. And let's just say you wanted to go in and you wanted to just do a few of them. So let's just say for transaction details, there is no possession date, so you just wanted to remove that. There is no special stipulations. This doesn't apply. So let's go ahead and the section is visible, but those fields aren't visible. So you can personalize it like that, where it's just nice and clean, exactly what you need it to be. And then you have, we'll skip over this, the property templates. You can apply a specific property template to the entire transaction. So we'll skip over that. You can definitely dive in more on the support tab for OTC, or of course get with me and we can set up a one-on-one to really set these up for you if you wanted some one-on-one help. The next one is the defaults and settings. Just like when we first got into the transaction, you're able to access those defaults and settings, which will actually give you more options when you come into it a second time. I don't know why, but they miss the property date sync in the first menu that pops up when you start a transaction. So if you hit it again, you'll be able to sync your dates that are on that that have that purple calendar from the fields. You'll be able to sync them to a specific calendar. So if you've had your calendar set up here, you'll be able to select which calendar you'd like and sync it to that calendar. If you've got some date templates, you can do that as well. You can dive into OTC support for more details on this. Everything else should look exactly the same. You can also search a specific field if you were just looking for, let's say, buyer contingency. Let's see if there's actually contingency. You can pull up the fields and update that field. If you received the inspection date, you can search home inspection. It'd be great if I could spell. And you can go ahead and plug in that date without having to scroll into all of that stuff. And then you can duplicate this transaction. You can delete this transaction. And if you ever make any changes and you're not seeing them appear, a quick refresh would do you wonders. Another thing, if this is a listing transaction, you probably don't want to look at your transaction details. You'll want to look at your listing management details. So you can flip to this one and see all of the listing management ones. When you start a listing here and maybe they put it under contract, you will probably want to duplicate this, and that way you can have all of the listing information into the transaction one, and you can keep these separate so that if the listing does terminate, you still have this one to go back, or I'm sorry, if the transaction terminates, you can always go back to your original listing and have all of those details and continue any task templates that you have or anything like that. So I would suggest you just duplicate your listing management one and create your transactions one. So that's really it for here. I will add that, those calendar events that you have here, you can always click here to actually sync them. It doesn't look like if we had people or contacts in the transaction, we would have a list of them here to allow us to invite to them. So kind of play around with this just to get kind of used to it once you do have people in there, but that's how you get to those settings. I think that's it for the workflow fields. So we'll dive into the transaction kind of stuff itself. So here, the agent portal user, this is where you'll assign the transaction to an agent so that they can see it in their portal. So you just click there and select which agent you'd like to share this on. The task templates, for now, you will be manually going to apply template to go ahead and add the task template you'd like to have. So I'm going to say a seller contract to close. You can apply multiple templates if you wanted by selecting the checkbox, or you can just, if it's just one, you can just hit apply and that'll be the two-step way to do it. You could have done it, apply down there as well, but that's just so much easier when it's just one. So you'll notice here that this says 11 business days before the closing date, this happens. So this is all going to happen exactly how it's supposed to look. So it looks like, oh, this one's actually set up for agreement date. So we'll kind of disregard that, but this is how it'll show up. You can complete tasks, and when they're completed, they'll be shot over to this here. You have some options to delete some task templates, delete, all tasks. If you have multiple task templates, you can delete all of a specific one or delete all of your templates altogether. Or yes, your task templates. So the active ones, you can select all and do some of these settings here. You can change the task roles, the tags. You can set a specific date for multiple. You can change a color to a different thing. So those are some settings that you can do when you actually have multiple selected here. You can also change the color from here, and this functions much like it does in the task template section. So the same buttons, but the only difference is when it's due in 1, 2, or 3 days, it will have these things lit up. So let's just say I'm going to change this from 10 business days before closing, and I'm just going to say the same day as the contract date. Now it'll show due today, right? But if I do, and I put the contract date as today, great. So if I do, instead of same day as, I'm going to do 1 calendar day after the contract date, which is today, it will show up yellow. And if I do 2 days after the contract date, it's going to show up blue. So due is due today, red is due today or past due. Yellow is the 1 day, due tomorrow. Blue is the 2 days, due in 2 days. And if it's gray, it's not due in the next 2 days. So you'll notice this was changing this as well. This is the health bar that we talked about. This gives you a great idea of where you are with the health of your transaction. If you have a red task and you have a blue task, you'll see everything there. So I'm actually going to do 1 calendar day after the contract date to have a yellow one. And then I'm going to do this one as same day as contract date, just so that you can see all of those. So when you have things due today, tomorrow, and in 2 days, they'll show up just like this. And by clicking this health bar, you can see all of those due in the next 2 days tasks. If you have any task triggers, so if there are any emails attached to this here, and I complete this, this is where you'll find that email to inspect it and send it. If you have any queued task triggers, they'd be here, any failed task triggers, and any intake form triggers. You can find them all here. So you can access that easily through here. And if we're actually in the view of the transaction from the Properties tab, you can also see all of these through here. This is why I love so much working from that table, because you have access to everything in the transaction. We'll jump more into that later. So with the tasks, we already talked about being able to sort by tag, sort by color, sort by the things that just have triggers, and sort by critical tasks. You can collapse so that you're only seeing the task itself, but if you wanted to see all the details within that task, you could. And if you have an agent on Follow-Up Boss, you can assign the task so you're actually able to push this task out to your agent within Follow-Up Boss. They'll get it in Follow-Up Boss. You can add a task, one-off task here. If you had something that you said, you know, remember this. You can mark it critical or pin it to the very top. And when we pin it to the top, even though we have something due today, this is going to be added to the pinned tasks there at the top, and it will remain there. So that's it for the task tab. So once we get to the email tab, if you wanted to send off a one-off email, you can do that here. And you can compose one. You can look at your scheduled emails for this specific transaction. You can look at all the sent emails within this transaction. And if you set up filters and labels in your Gmail, you can sync those to come up here. So I do have a video of that on my YouTube. Let me know if you need that video. I'll make sure to send it off to you. So because this email isn't synced, it didn't give me those options, but that is exactly how you would go about doing that. So this one's pretty simple. You can apply a template, or you can write a just one-off email. You can select that email signature if you don't already have it defaulted, and then you can schedule this message to be sent on a specific day at a later time. So you can schedule the email to be sent later on. That's pretty much it here. Of course, you can CC and BCC if you need to do that. So the Documents tab, we talked a little bit about this, and you can, right now, it'll be a manual apply the transaction. Phase 2 is where we'll dive into these intake forms. I'd really like you to get used to using this and know exactly where everything is and how to get to it should anything not fire off the way it needs to. So I'm going to apply the seller one that we were talking about. And then you'll notice that the settings that I set up, we did the broker, we did the seller signed, the buyer needs to sign. You'll see this here as the missing ones, and then you'll notice this little number here as those missing ones. So we have 3 missing documents within this transaction, and you'll always also be able to see this at a glance through here. And if you click this here, it'll jump you right into those documents. So I did mention there were a few other things that we could do once we got into the transaction. We can download these one by one. If you select multiple, you have a way to send it to Google Drive. You can move the files to a different section. You can delete them. And then to apply an actual file role, you will want to upload the document, whatever it is. And then you can click into here and assign this file role. This is going to be the invoice 1. So assign this file role, invoice 1, and when we have that document uploaded here, that will automatically rename that document to whatever your name is here. So that's what I love about the Documents tab and the file roles here. It renames to really keep it consistent and clean within your OTC account. So you can replace a document, you can save those notes like I mentioned before. If you wanted to expand where you're not, collapse where you're not seeing the notes, you can do that so you have a nice clean view of what's going on. You can manage those file buttons here. And this is going to really dive into what you can do with these toggle buttons. This didn't show up in the templates, so I'll go over this really quick. So it says define the button when fully executed as green. So you see here, the default is to put them gray, right? You see how it went gray? But we can make it so when it's missing, it's gray. When it's executed, it's green. So you can play around with these settings. This is for the missing one. So we toggle this on, it's green. We can mark it missing when we hit that from green to red, or we can have it so it doesn't mark it missing. I don't really use this, and I'm not exactly sure what the purpose of this was. I know that a few people were kind of complaining on the way that it looked. I personally don't. So let's see. Turn missing label gray or turn missing label red. Okay. So, oh, gotcha. So if it's missing and you mark it executed, so turn missing label gray, and it's executed, it'll turn the missing label gray. So if it's missing and you have this off, turn it on, it'll keep the missing label gray. So you might want to make it so it's not, because if it's fully executed, we don't want it to keep showing missing 3 files. We want it to be changed to not missing. And then this one here, so executed, fully executed, toggled off. Define your button color when fully executed is toggled off. Turn the missing label red. Okay, so when it's turned off, it'll turn this red, but let's see here. On changes it, and then turned off. Yeah, that doesn't make sense. Turn the missing label red. Oh, I didn't do it. Okay. There you go. Yeah. So it didn't change it unless I did that. So broker default, this is new, and they're adding new things all the time. So define the buttons when broker. Okay, so now you can say the broker signed one, which is this red one. I use this one for when I've uploaded it to compliant. So if I haven't, it's going to be red, but once I do, it'll be green. So you can define this here, whether you want it all red when you start a transaction, or if you want it green, or if you want it purple, or if you want it just gray. I prefer it red until I go ahead and submit it, and then I turn it green. So that is on this part of things. You can apply the template here. You can add a whole new folder if you wanted to add septic docs. You can do that and add the files just like so. Septic invoice. And then you can filter if you were looking for a specific one, contract. It looks like I don't have that, but lender letter, anything with lender will show up. And then how it works button. Filter by a specific template. You can just look at that template when you have a lot going on. That's probably helpful. And that's really it for this here. You can connect a Google Drive folder. I will give you a little bit of a walkthrough on this. Oh, we don't have a Google account set up. So basically you have your root folders, which are your main folders that you're pushing into. I think the way you'll want to do it is create the folder within your drive and then come here to upload. You're able to set it to automatically sync any new documents into that Google Drive folder. So play around in there once you have your Google synced, and that will definitely be helpful. So the notes section, you can add notes And actually, I'm going to, for this example, I'm going to complete these tasks so that the health bar is clear for me. So it's still red, yellow, green, I'm sorry, red, yellow, purple, but if I moved to a different tab, it should be gone. Okay, what's going on here? Let me go in and out. Yeah, now it's gone. There you go. Just a quick refresh does wonders sometimes. So with the notes, red note, yellow note, blue note. So I'm hitting shift and enter to add these notes. You can also just click add here and it would do the same thing. So I'm going to just show you that this will also, if you've got a low priority note, it'll show up in the health bar here. If you've got a medium priority note, it'll show up as well, and a red one. So I love this feature to really keep track of things that I want to keep top of mind because it'll show here and I'll be able to open this up. Oh, red note, yellow note, blue note. So that's definitely something that you can utilize. If you don't want it to show any color, that's perfectly fine too. That's just going to be an internal note. And that'll just show up as gray and it won't show in your health bar. So once it's here, it'll show in your health bar. When you write a note for a transaction, it defaults to exclude from agent portal. So if you wanted to include it, you would have to click in here and include it. This here is to pin it to the top. So if you wanted this one always at the top, or if you wanted this one always at the top, it's going to send it to the top. So it's always pinned, and then you can trash the notes. When you remove these, it'll look like it doesn't remove from here, right? It removed it from the health bar, so I'll do this one, but it didn't take the color away from here. If you click away and click back, it'll remove it for you. This needs a refresh. All right, the contacts tab. You can import them from your API things, so follow up us, .loop, SkySlope, BrokerMint. You can import from that. There's nothing set up, so obviously I can't. We'll just add a contact really quick. And so this will be the personal. So when you're doing the merge fields, this would be contact first name, contact last name. This business tab would be contact office name or business name, contact business email, contact business phone, just so you know. You can edit the contact easily through there by going here, or you can just update the contact here. tester@gmail.com and hit enter to save. You can reassign the file role here. You can make it so in every calendar invite, so right now I'll open up this here. So it looks like it didn't, why didn't it do that? So, oh, it's because in our field editor, let's look at this. Yeah, no, it should be. Oh, it's because we don't have it synced. So when we have it synced, it'll show up to Google, to the Google Calendar. It'll show up here since we don't have it synced. That's why it's doing that. But we can make it so this person is always checked off in the people that receive these calendar invites. Or you can leave it off if you'd like to manually control how those people get these calendar invites. So you can create a new contact, you can assign to a specific contract or assign a contact group to this transaction. Just like I mentioned before, you could have a bunch of people in one and assign that entire group to one contact. The contacts tab, you can select all contacts for deleting. You can select none, expand, and collapse if you just wanted to see a clean view of all the contacts. And a different way, so you can search your database. So if you've got your agent in there, you can search John, Joan, Jan, I guess, and it'll come up for you. That's how you add from your actual database within OTC. And then if you click here, you can have your contacts from anywhere within the transaction in your contact drawer. So that's where if you were here and you wanted to see really quick what everyone's contact information was, you would just open that up and you have all of their contact information with just a couple of clicks here. Well, that's not even a click, that's just a hover, a click, and you've got all the parties in the transaction. This actually organizes it nicely too. So you'll have the buyers on top, the sellers, the buyer's agent, the seller's agent, the lender, the title company, and it'll be in a nice order. So you know exactly where to go to. It's not going to be in the order the contacts are in, because you can actually customize what is on the top here. That'll show it in the same way. Buyer, seller, buyer's agent, seller's agent. I think it's lender title or title lender, one or the other. But yes, that's how you kind of navigate through the contacts. The text, once you have that active number, you're able to, it's super easy. You can apply a template, you can write out a message, and you can select the contact. The only downside of this is you can't do group just now. I'm sorry, just yet, but they are working on that, where it is going to be a whole nother widget where we can do group text messages and stuff. So one sheet, you can look at the support tab for ways to kind of incorporate one sheets. This is just like a one sheet report that'll go out automatically. You can find this in your templates. There's a one sheet template, so definitely dive in to learn a little more about that. The APIs, this is where you'll sync specific APIs to the transaction. So if you wanted to add a SkySlope API profile or add a loop to or connect it with a loop, you can do that here. And then this here is for, if you have the Stripe integration on, if you use Stripe for getting payments, you can connect that payment here. And then you can look at the transaction activity. It doesn't really, so you can, I guess, open this up, but you can't really do anything more outside of this, outside of just see that the property was open, things were done, the date and time. And then we've got the access. So this is where you can add client portal users. You can send an invite to any of your contacts. You can change the agent that's assigned to the portal through here. So you can do the same thing here, but if you wanted, you can access that through that tab as well. The options, the access tab. And then the team user, if you needed to change the team user from the person that was, let's just say they're sick, and you wanted to assign this property to someone else just so that they could start taking care of it, you can do that here, where you reassign from one team user to another. This is where your property email is. Any documents that are attached to an email that you send to this property email will automatically add to the Documents tab and allow it to be shown here, where you view it before you view and approve it before it gets added to one of these placeholders. So you can quickly do things like that through here. And really that's it for the property when you're in the transaction itself. And let's just go over the things that you'll see in the property title here. The property table here. So you'll see all of those same fields, only if you set it up to see it that way. If you want it just at a glance, like these are the milestones, this is where you'll find them. You can click the ball of your mouse to scroll right and left, or you can just use this bar here to scroll right and left. When you are all the way to the left, it's probably hard to see. You don't know what transaction it is, but if you hover over the cell that you're working in, you can see, oh, it's 1231 veins, I guess. I don't know. So you can hover over to see the property title. And then you've got a few things. If you wanted to create another system for your colors here so that you can sort your properties, your transactions by colors, you can do that. You can just hover over this to do a lot of shortcuts. So you have these fields, but you wanted to take a deeper dive into what all the fields look like. You can just hit here and details, and it's going to open up a drawer with all of your fields. This is one of my favorite things here where you can just easily go to something here. Once I open this up, I usually do like Control Find, Control F, and I will do, let's just say contract, and then I can hit enter to sort through all the contracts, or septic, and it'll jump me down to the septic section. So that's a great little shortcut to get to those. If you wanted to search a specific field and say, hey, I just want to see the contract date, it'll show you the contract date. All right, cool. If you needed to change the home inspection date, you can say, okay, yes, we've scheduled the home inspection to, I'm just going to type one of these predictive ones, to this date, and it'll update it for you. You can open up the file drawer here, so you're seeing all of these, the files that are the placeholders within this. The documents tab, if you want to go straight to the transactions documents tab, you can do it through here or through this here. The contacts, that contact drawer will show up if you hit contacts through here. You can make a phone call, send an email, send a text, or write a note for this contact, or if you need to edit the contact, you can do that directly from here. You can update their contact information, 4444444, and I think I missed a 4, that's why it's not, there you go. You can update their contact here, and then you can jump straight to the tasks if you wanted to do that. If you wanted to just look at the task drawer, you can go here, and all your tasks are going to show up, just like I mentioned earlier. So if you've got the red, yellow, blue, it'll show up here, and you can just open that up really quick. Another thing that I like to do when things are a little bit too, maybe it's a smaller table, but it's still too long and I want to be able to see more of what's going on. If you hit Control and the minus sign on your keyboard, it'll zoom out and zoom in. So yeah, really, I prefer to have a smaller screen so I can see what's going on, but it's totally up to you how it works. Now we've got our tables and segments where you can create your large table. And let's just say I wanted to create a smaller table based on these fields. I would just add a new segment, and I'll call it new seg. And it's going to duplicate that table. So whatever you start with, whatever you duplicate, whatever, you're basically duplicating whatever table you're on. So if you wanted, you know, a clean table, you might want to start on a clean slate, but this is going to duplicate it where you can go ahead and say, you know what, I don't want to look at these things. You can really pick and choose what you're seeing, and then you say, I want to see the survey date, choose frequency. I'm just picking some random things. You can create a table based on whatever you want to see on this segment. So this is transactions. You can have a listings one. You can have a terminated one. That way you're only seeing your pending transactions, your active transactions, your terminated transactions, your closed transactions. So you can make big tables for those different topics, and then go ahead and make a smaller table to really dive in and get specific on certain things. So You can, I think I kind of talked about this, and those are some good shortcuts. I think that's pretty much it for the properties table and the transactions themselves. So as you're, in your transactions, kind of going through the tasks, you're going to get those different things. And I'd like to show you the best way to go about a trigger when you're sending an email. So I'm just going to add a one-off trigger here. And I'm going to pause this while I set this. Actually, I'll let you run through it with me. So toggle on, missing email subject. So that's because I don't have an email here. Apply template, and I'll just do this one. It doesn't matter. So now it shows as a trigger. So this task has a trigger. The best way to complete these triggers, instead of going here, then the email, and then inspecting, and then editing if you need to. The easiest way, in my opinion, is to complete the task, which will shoot it up to the health bar. You can just close this, and then if you go here, it'll be in the task triggers. So you complete this, go to your task triggers, and this is where you can inspect it. Check it out, see if that's something you want, and send right away. Or you can edit a specific field. This right here is going to show you what's missing to be able to make this a perfect email or a fully executed email. So it looks like this is supposed to go to the lender, but the lender's first name isn't there. So that's just a reminder, oh shoot, I need to go add the lender before I send this email. If there was like, it was here, it says the contract date was missing, you could easily edit a field by going there and saying contract date, and then update in the contract date, and it will update here. If you wanted to edit the actual email, you hit edit here, yes, and you can go in and change whatever you need to make this email for this transaction perfect, and then hit send. So that is the easiest way, in my opinion, to send triggers from a specific task. A lot of people get stuck on that, thinking they need to hit the trigger button. No, just complete it. It'll send it up to the health bar for you to send through the task trigger itself. And also, you can always delete it if it's something that you don't need to send. You can delete it here. And I did mention that you can send things automatically, but by clicking that task completed. So instead of it going to the health bar over there, it would have went straight. It would have sent immediately after you hit complete, if you did toggle that button to send automatically. So that is it for the transaction itself and all of the different buttons and stuff that you can have within here. Don't let yourself get overwhelmed. Really just focus on the task stuff. This email one is pretty easy. You don't really need to add documents, especially if you're in a lot of different places, uploading to Dotloop and uploading to their drive and then their compliance department, whatever it is. You don't really need to start here. Focus on these two tabs because that's really what's going to get you on track with getting used to the system and really using it and seeing how things happen. So yeah, go ahead and dive in, start putting your transactions in, and let me know if you have any questions. Talk soon.